One of the things that got me into the study of religious history was I come from a very religious family. My father was a minister, and the study of religious history opened up a lot of new windows, a lot of new doors to me into thinking about my own religious heritage, to think about American religious heritage. And so it became really, in part, a kind of a religious quest for self-understanding, but it has branched out into a kind of intellectual quest to see the broader perspective. My name is Peter Jauhiainen. I teach religious studies here at Kirkwood. And my Endowed Chair project has been to write a book on the life of, on the theology of Samuel Hopkins. Samuel Hopkins was a leading disciple of Jonathan Edwards, one of the major theologians in American history. The title of my book that I hope to publish very soon is An Enlightenment Calvinist, Samuel Hopkins and the Pursuit of Benevolence. So the major theme of this book is about benevolence. It's dealing with a Calvinist theologian, a Congregationalist minister, living in New England in the 18th century and interacting with Enlightenment thought and wrestling with some big ideas. He's entering into a discussion with other thinkers from England, from America, over the nature of true virtue. But Hopkins was also a leading abolitionist of his day. For the last 30 years or so of his life, he lived in Newport, Rhode Island. He was a minister of a Congregationalist church there. Newport was the leading slave trading port of New England. And so Hopkins was provided an opportunity to apply his theory of benevolence, what he called disinterested benevolence, to the issue of slavery. When he moved to Newport, he became an ardent critic of slavery, one of the handful of people of his day who was such a forceful opponent of slavery. So that was one of this whole idea of disinterested benevolence, promoting the good of the whole, regardless of the consequences to oneself, putting the good of others before your own private self-interest. That was one of the themes that really attracted me to the thought of Samuel Hopkins, and the manner in which he really applied this idea of disinterested benevolence to a major issue of his day, like slavery. One of the things that the academic study of religion teaches us is to think critically about our assumptions, to not force certain theological viewpoints onto our students, not to teach religious belief per se, but to teach about religion and to teach about religious history. And so I try to get my students to think critically about issues of religion, and culture, about their own religious heritage in America. I teach courses on religions of the world, and so it gives them a broader framework for asking some of these larger questions of human existence, about God, the nature of God. Is there a God? Where do you find value in life? Where do you find purpose? What's the meaning of it all? What happens when we die? So the academic study of religion can give us a lens through which to hopefully be more discerning citizens, hopefully be better critical thinkers, and hopefully to give us a more fruitful life. In some ways I got into the study of Samuel Hopkins by chance. I got a Ph.D. from the University of Iowa, and when I was leaving for Iowa, my very first year, my father, who was a minister, emerged from his office with this set of 3 volumes of the works of Samuel Hopkins, published in 1852. And he asked me if I would ever have use for these. The very first seminar I took was on the subject of millennialism, and Hopkins wrote a treatise on the millennium, and so I decided, well, why not? Why not focus on his treatise? And I got into the research on Samuel Hopkins and realized that there was much to be done here. And so, well, what's interesting to me about Hopkins is he was critical of American hypocrisy at the time of its founding, the hypocrisy of trying to fight for freedom at a time in which they were enslaving the Africans. And so rather than arguing that America was somehow God's uniquely chosen nation, Hopkins said America was actually under the judgment of God. So that he was somewhat of a prophet in his own day, and that's been one of his appeals to me, his willingness to speak truth to power.